Hello and welcome to MPinzonART. My name is Mauricio and today we're going to be working on an illustration based on a randomly generated object and a randomly generated animal. Then we're going to mash them up and see how it goes. Okay, let's do it.
So I used a random animal and object generator to get the two items I was going to work with. What I got was a goat and a keyboard. Now the idea was not to have like a goat typing on a keyboard or anything like that. The idea was to merge them into one image, one object. So let's see how that went. To begin with, I sketched a goat just to have the general idea of what I was gonna work on. Have this structure to make a cohesive sketch. After making the sketch, I duplicated all over the page and then I started with my basic concept. So I figure, if it's gonna be a merge between a goat and a keyboard, the better thing is that it's a machine, like a robot or something like that. You see I put like the Wi-Fi on the horns and all that, which I didn't like, but I did like the USB ports on the ear. I started also thinking what kind of job will require or what will benefit from having a computerized goat. And the first thing that came to my mind was an archaeologist, because they have to get into really rough terrains, so having something that can move around just as easily will be the best thing. That's what sent me to the next sketch, this one right here, which will be something that could be beneficial to a archaeologist. The nose, I thought it would be a good like flashlight kind of thing. I kept the USB ports on the ear because I like that in the design. And I put the plug in the tail, as you can see. It has to have a tail, might as well be the charger. That's what I thought. Now it has, as I said, it has to move in like rough terrain. So that's why I added kind of the caterpillar wheels on the back of the legs. That way it doesn't have to walk all the time, it can just roll around sometimes if it can. I put like a scanner so it can scan different elements of the environment if the archaeologist needs to. And there's the keyboard and the screen right there on the back of the... Also a place to put the tools. I thought that would be a good idea. Now at this part I realized that maybe putting the wheels in the back of the leg wasn't a good idea given the way the leg bends. So it would be a better idea to put it in the front. Now at this point I started with the final illustration. I started sketching out how the position of the goat was going to be. So since I wanted to make it like an all-terrain kind of machine, then I started making it like it was climbing on something. I wasn't sure yet what I was gonna make for the background that it was gonna climb on, but I figured climbing would be a good idea. And as I mentioned, figuring out that the wheels would go better at the front, that's why I did it like that in this final sketch. Kind of changed the way the tool holder was going to be. I figured it would be better if we could go back into the body of the machine. And here I started making the archaeologist that was going to be working on something they discovered. So at this point I figure, hey, maybe they already found what they were going for, and the goat is just there kind of illuminating and scanning the environment of what the archaeologists had found. The reason I made the slabs like that was because I wanted to make it look like they had already found something and had already carved the wall where it was, and they were kind of studying that hole that they had made, and slowly started opening up the area so they wouldn't damage whatever it was that they had discovered. Here I started with the inking. Now the brushes that I'm using, I don't know if you can tell from the video, but it's not a perfect straight line. It's not one of the brushes that come with Photoshop. This one is a brush made by Kyle Webster. What it does is it gives a small texture, almost as if you were putting ink on paper and it was kind of bleeding a little bit around. So I like that texture. I like because it gives it more of a natural look to it, not just a digital look. So I like that little bleed, bleed effect that it gives. Now I wanted to leave it basically on three colors, kind of tones of blue, somewhat reddish, and yellows. So this background is kind of brown, kind of turns more to red. So that's why I did it like that. You'll see more in the shadows. When I start in the shadows, it's more of a reddish tone. That way it'll contrast nicely with the yellow and the blue that I'm going to put on the lights that are coming out of the goat. It'll make that triadic color combination, which will make the image a little pop a little better. Now here, I don't know if you can notice from the lines, I made those separations, like putting and leaving the pressure from the stylus. That way it gives like a rough kind of weather kind of look to it. And this is the part I enjoy the most, actually, making all that language, writing all that language on the wall. That's what they discovered. At first I thought I was gonna make like a statue or something coming out of the wall, or a bone that they have discovered, but then I thought, you know, it would be a good idea to put like all the writing of the text that they maybe found, like an ancient language in the bottom of this deep cave. I've always been fascinated with like hieroglyphics and ancient writings and all that, so this was a good opportunity to put that into use and just, you know, make up that language. At this point I started adding the colors. As I mentioned before, I wanted to give it like those reddish tones and blues, so I started with the blue on the goat. The goat is gonna be mostly blue, kind of tones of blue, which will make it pop a little better with the reddish of the background. As you can see, it's kind of metallic. I made it kind of shiny metallic. That's why I have those browns at the bottom that's reflecting from the ground. Here I wanted to give it the hat a kind of a yellow, a reddish tone, but also kind of leave that kind of brown on it. So when you're looking at the image, your eyes will be kind of drawn to the hat because it's kind of reddish surrounded by that blue. So it kind of calls the attention to the image as well. There's a lot of attention also already coming to the code. So I wanted to give also some more attention to the archaeologist standing there. That's why I made that hat of that tone. And also give it that blue. You can see the combination of the three colors working on that character. That way not all the attention is stolen by the code. So it also is not as permanent, but it also calls attention to it. Here I'm trying to give some ambient to the image, so I use my levels and variations to create a different background for it, like change it a little bit on tone, and also use a mask to kind of remove from around because there's that light coming out of the code, so to kind of lighten the areas where the light will be hitting. So there it is, the illustration that came up from mashing a randomly generated animal, which was the goat, and a randomly generated object, which was the keyboard. I hope you enjoyed the process, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.